Alright, we are at my very, very, very favorite lesson, which is multiplying two binomials, because we get to meet Binomial Bob in this section, and it just makes me so happy. I think you guys met Binomial Bob last year, but I just can't remember. He's a very nice fellow, and he's going to help us through a lot of tough times in this section. So let's be nice to Bob and have him help us through. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in how to multiply two binomials. So a lot of times when people see two binomials that are being multiplied, they just kind of willy-nilly it, and they automatically think your answer is going to just be x times x is x squared, and then 4 times 2 is 8, so my answer must be plus 8. Okay, this is so wrong, and this is why Bob is here to help us, because when you're multiplying two binomials, there's quite a bit of a process for it. And we're going to use FOIL to help us. And if you remember from last year, the F is going to stand for first, the O is going to stand for outer, I is going to stand for inner, and the L is going to stand for last. Alright, so we need to remember FOIL, and we need to remember Binomial Bob, which you'll see in a second. So here's another set of binomials that need to be multiplied together. I'm going to zoom in here. So let's look at the x plus 5 times x plus 8. So if we're using FOIL, we're going to start with the first two terms. So the first term in this binomial would be x, and the first term in this binomial would also be x. So I'm going to multiply x times x. So x times x is going to give us x to the second power. And I should have written that lower because I need to meet Bob, let's be honest. So we have x squared down here. Okay, the O stands for outer, so that is going to be the outer two terms, so the terms that are on the outside of the binomial, so that would be x times 8. So if I multiply x times 8, remember the coefficient has to go first. So we're going to make that 8x. All right. Then we have our inner two terms for the I. So that's going to be the two terms that are on the inside. So that's going to be plus 5x. And then the L in the FOIL stands for the last two terms. So in this binomial, the last term is 5, and in this binomial, the last term is 8. So I'm going to do 5 times 8 would give you plus 40. Okay, when you are multiplying binomials like this, you're always going to have 4 terms if you've done FOIL right, because FOI, that's 4 terms. So you have 4 terms, and do you see Bob? Can you see him? He's got his cute little eyes, his nose, and his little smiley mouth because he just loves math so much. So there's Bob. If you've done it right, Bob will show up. Okay? Alright, so we've got our terms. The last step is looking for like terms. So hopefully you're noticing that we have an 8x plus a 5x. Those are like terms. So those can be combined in your final answer. So your final answer is going to be x squared. 8x plus 5x will give you 13x. Oops, sorry. And then plus 40. Okay, so we went from 4 terms to 3 terms, so this is a trinomial. Your very final answer should always, always, always be a trinomial. Okay, I think I got a little excited in that example, so I'll slow down a little bit and make more sense in this problem, but just love Binomial Bob. Alright, so let's look at these binomials. So I'm going to use FOIL. I'm going to start with the first two terms. So n times n is going to give you n squared. Then we have our outer two terms, so the terms on the outside. So that would be n times 4, so that would give you 4n. And then we're going to have our inner two two terms, so the terms on the inside. And this time I have a negative, so I'm going to be careful of that. So negative 7 times n would give you a negative 7n. And then finally your last two terms. And again, I have that negative 7 plus 4 would give you a negative 28. Okay, so if you've done FOIL right, you should see Bob. And you should have 4 terms for FOIL, F-O-I-L. Alright, then you're going to look for those like terms, and if you've done FOIL right, they should kind of be the two terms in the middle. So your like terms are the n's, and you're just going to bring everything down. So I have an n squared. I'm going to combine to get negative 3n, and then bring down your negative 28. And like I said, you should end with a nice trinomial, 3 terms. Alrighty? Alright, one more, and then I'm going to let you try these on your own. This one is a bit more challenging because you have coefficients in front of your variables. So same process, just more numbers to deal with. So we're still going to use our FOIL. So we're going to start with the first 2 terms. You can pause me if you feel like you know what the heck you're doing and you don't need my help. Just check your answer when you're done. So we have 2y times 3y would give you 6y squared. Then we're going to do our outer 2 terms. And we get negative 10y. Inner 2 terms. Remember, you're multiplying when you're doing all of this, not adding. You're just multiplying. So we get 9y. And then our last 2 terms, negative 15. Okay, so when you're FOILing, it's all multiplication. You get your FOIL. Now, when you're combining like terms, that depends on what you're given. You're either going to add or subtract depending on what you're given. So I'm going to bring everything down. So I have 6y squared. I'm going to combine. So negative 10y plus 9y would give you a negative 1y. And then bring down your minus 15. So when you FOIL, you're multiplying. When you're combining like terms, you're adding or subtracting depending on what you're given. Okay, so 2 different things. Alright, you have 2 problems down here. Give it a go. Call me over when you think you know it and you think you've got the right answer. Have fun with Bob, everyone!